The village of Akata was a place where dreams came to die. Nestled in the heart of Igbo land, it was a patchwork of mud huts, rusted zinc roofs, and dirt roads that turned to rivers during the rainy season. The air smelled of smoke, sweat, and the faint tangle of despair. Here, Precious was born a girl with a name that mocked her reality. At 19, her life was a circle of blistered hands, cracked feet, and the sour stench of sweat-soaked farm clothes. She worked on plantations owned by wealthy landowners who paid her just enough to keep her family from starving, but never enough to escape. Her only light in the darkness, Michael, a 22-year-old orphan with grease-stained hands and a smile that could melt iron. Michael was the village mechanic. He fixed bicycles, motorbikes, and sometimes even the old grinding machines for women in the market. He had nothing but a rusty toolbox, a beat-up motorcycle, and a heart too big for his own good. He had been in love since secondary school, where they shared stolen glances under the mango tree behind the classrooms. Now, years later, their love was the only thing that made their harsh lives bearable. But today, the universe will test that love. Precious wiped the sweat from her brow, her back screaming in protest as she bent over the yam ridges. The sun had been merciless all morning, but now the sky darkened like a bruise. Hurry up, girl, finish that row before the rain comes. Famubaka backed, his whip cracking the air near her ear. She swallowed a whimper, her fingers, raw and bleeding from hours of digging, trembled as she yanked another yam from the earth. Then the first drop fell, cold, heavy, a warning. Within seconds, the heavens split open. Rain pounded the earth like bullets, turning the field into a swamp. Precious slipped, her knees slamming into the mud. She tried to stand, but her legs gave out. I can't. Her vision blurred. Famubaka's voice faded as darkness crept in. The last thing she heard was the distant roar of a motorcycle. Micah had been tightening bolts on Mrs. Ngozi's grinding machine when the storm hit. Precious! His heart lunged. She was at Ubaka's farm today. He didn't think. He ran. His motorcycle skidded through the mud as he raced through the fields. Lightning lit up the sky, revealing a crumpled figure in the distance. Precious! He leapt off the bike before it even stopped, sinking knee-deep into the mud as he reached her. Her skin was ice cold, her lips blue. Famobaka stood under a tree, smoking. She's fine, just tired. Michael's hands shook as he lifted her up. She's not fine. Then take her to the clinic, Obaka sneered. If you can't afford it. Michael's jaw clenched. He had no money. He had her. He ran. But the clinic was a crumbling building with flickering light and the stench of antiseptic. She needs a blood transfusion now, the doctor said, adjusting his glasses. 5,000 naira. Margaret's stomach dropped. I don't have that. Then she dies. Precious parents arrived, their face lined with fear. We can't pay, her father whispered, shame thick in his voice. Michael's hand curled into fist. Then he made his choice. 2 hours later, he returned, slamming the money on the table. Where did you? The doctor started. Just save her. When Precious woke, her face fluttered open to see Michael slumped into a chair beside her. His clothes still damp, his face gaunt from exhaustion. You saved me, she whispered. He forced a smile, always. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I can't do this anymore, Michael. The farm work, it's killing me. He reached into his pocket and placed a key in her palm. Then don't. She stared at it. What's this? A shop for you to sell foodstuffs? Her breath hitched. Ha! I've been saving for us. She stopped, clutching the key like a lifeline. That night, under the glow of a kerosene lamp, Precious gripped Michael's hand. I'll never leave you, never, he chuckled. You don't have to prove that. I do. Her voice was deadly serious. She pulled out a needle, pricked her finger, and let a drop of blood fall into a cup. Then she handed it to him. Swear it. Michael hesitated. Blood oaths were no joke in their village. They were binding, cursed, but the look in her eyes, desperate, pleading, made him comply. He pricked his own finger. If you ever leave me for another man, he whispered, you will turn into a goat on your wedding day. She laughed, but her voice was hollow. And if you leave me for another woman, you will go mad on your wedding day. They drank. Outside, the wind howled like a warning. As they parted ways, an old woman hidden in the shadows watched them go. Her lips curled into a knowing smile. Fools, she rasped. The spirit never forgets a blood oath. The morning sun cast long shadows as Michael approached the small shop he built for Precious. Above the wooden door, the sign still shone, Adama's Provision Store. The red paint hadn't faded much, just like the memories. His mechanic uniform was streaked with yesterday's grease, and the bag of spare parts on his shoulder weighed less than the thought in his mind. Inside, Precious was already arranging sacks of rice with precise care. Flour dusted her arms and sweat clung to her temple despite the early hour. "You are here early," she said without turning, as if she had felt his presence. Michael dropped the bag, couldn't sleep, kept thinking. She wiped her hands on his apron and faced him, thinking what? He took a deep breath. This shop, it isn't enough for you. The sack of beans in her arms slipped and burst across the floor. That evening beneath the mango tree, where they used to play as children, Precious stared at the jam form in her hand. The fading sunlight made the paper glow orange. "Nursing school?" Her voice trembled. "Michael, the fee is a loan. I've been saving." He pulled a battered metal box from his bag. Inside, stacks of naira notes, some crispy, some nearly transparent, lay in neat rows. "Every repair job, every shift, I did it for you." Precious traced the edges of the form. "What if I fail?" Michael caught her hand. "You won't." A warm wind rustled the mango leaves, but still she shivered. Campus life was a whirlwind. Precious had never known this kind of energy. Students in uniform buzzing between modern buildings, speaking in tongues of science and ambition. Her phone buzzed. Michael's evening call. She silenced it and returned to her anatomy diagram. Still taking calls from the village? She turned. Kelvin Maduka leaned on her desk. His tailored shirt clung perfectly on his dark skin, his gold watch flashing under the ceiling lights. "He is my boyfriend, I know." Michael smirked. Kelvin smirked. "Tell me, does he even know what champagne tastes like?" That night she stared at the diamond bracelet Kelvin had given her. Each rainbow's reflection danced across her doom wall. Michael called again. She let it ring. The pain started as a dull ache. By mid-terms it was constant. Then came the collapse in the library, blood confusion, sirens, end-stage renal failure. The doctor said in a voice too loud for such a sterile room. Without a transplant, her parents stood frozen. We can't afford." The door slammed open. "Michael!" His eyes were red from the bus ride. His clothes were rumpled. "Test me." "You're not family," the doctor said. "I am all she has," Michael whispered. He was a match. He didn't flinch at the risks. He didn't hesitate when they said he'll never do heavy labor again. He sold his parents' last plot of land for the bills. As they wheeled him into surgery, Precious, drugged and barely awake, whispered Kelvin's name. Recovery was slow. Kelvin visited daily, and gifts that made nurses exchange glances. "Your mechanic called again," one nurse said. Precious deleted Michael's messages. Then came the dreams, hooves on thigh, hot breath on her neck, a voice whispering, "Remember the oath." One night she stumbled to the bathroom. Her surgical scar ached. She looked into the mirror and for a second a goat's yellow eyes stared back. She screamed, but when the notice came, only her pale face stared black. Marry me, Kevin said, slipping the diamond ring into her finger. Precious hesitated for a moment, just once. The necklace he gave her burned against her skin. In the hallway mirror, her reflection barely herbivore teeth. Somewhere in the village, Michael woke up screaming, his kidney scared, troubled, blank. Life returned to a rhythm for Precious, or so it seemed. She focused entirely on her studies and left the pain of Michael behind, or tried to. The new world she found herself in, filled with the glamour of her rich fiancé Kelvin, seemed to replace her mother's beginning. Kelvin rented a luxurious apartment for her in the city, away from the village and her past. Precious adjusted quickly to this life of comfort. No more struggling to pay tuition or skipping meals, no more dusty roads to farm or counting coins to survive. But amidst all the luxury, the shadow of the past, the oath with Michael, lingered quietly, buried in her subconscious. Kevin pampered her beyond measure, designer's clothes, expensive gifts, vacation, and even promises of setting up a private hospital for her after school. Her parents were in awe of their daughter's fortune. Her mother, however, never felt settled. My daughter, are you sure you told this man everything? Her mother once asked in a hushed tone. Mama, everything is fine. Precious lied with a nervous smile. I have moved on. But as their wedding approached, her nightmare grew intense. She often dreamt of Michael, sad, bleeding, broken. Once, she woke up screaming, feeling as though someone has ripped her heart out. It was the guilt, gnawing at her soul. One evening, she sat beside Kelvin as he browsed through the honeymoon destination. Baby, she said softly, I need to tell you something. Kelvin, calm and unbothered, simply nodded. Go on. She narrated the entire story, her past with Michael, the blood oath, the sacrifices, and the spiritual bond they forged. Kevin's expression changed slowly from relaxed to alarmed. Blood oath? With consequences? Yes, she confessed, her eyes filled with regret. But I never thought it was real. We laughed about it. They both sat in silence for a minute. Then Kevin, determined to not let anything ruin his plan, said, we will go and see him. We will ask him to break it. The next day, they traveled to the village. It had been over a year since Precious had seen Michael. Her heart raced as the car approached the small workshop where he used to work. He wasn't there. They asked around and someone pointed them to a quiet corner where Michael sat beside a small tree, fixing an old bicycle. He looked older, paler, but the fire in his eyes still burned when he saw her. Michael, she whispered. He said nothing. Thank you for everything, she began, tears forming. But I have moved on. I came to tell you that I'm getting married. I'm sorry, but please, I need you to release me from the oath. Michael's hand froze. The wretch he held fell to the ground. Kelvin stepped forward. Whatever you've spent on her, I'll repay it 10 times. Name your price. Michael's eyes turned red. He looked up at them, one filled with betrayal and the other filled with arrogance. I don't want your money, Michael finally said, and I won't break the oath. Oath. You made a promise with blood, and some things are not just words. Go ahead with your wedding, but don't say I didn't warn you. He turned his back on them. Precious fell to her knees. Please, Michael, please. He walked away. They returned to the city and went straight to a powerful spiritualist. The man listened carefully and, after moments of silence, said, you may proceed with the wedding. The blood oath has no power here. As long as it was done out of ignorance, nothing will happen. Relieved, Kelvin and Precious returned home to prepare. Not every oath can be broken, and not every I am sorry brings peace. The traditional wedding was a blast. Culture, music, joy. Everyone celebrated. Her dress, golden with coral beads, made her look like a queen. Meanwhile, in the same village, a wealthy couple, Chief and Mrs. Okonkwo, drove into a quiet town searching for land to build a rehabilitation center. They'd been married for 25 years without a child and believed that Doing something meaningful for society might open the doors of fruitfulness. As they strolled around a peaceful plot of land on the outskirts of the village, they noticed a man hanging a rope on a tree. "Stop the car!" Mrs. Okonkwo screamed. Chief jumped out and ran towards the man, cutting the rope just before he could go through with it. It was Michael. His eyes were sunken and his face pale with grief. He fell to his knee and began to cry. They took him to their home and listened to as he narrated the entire story, from loving Precious with all his heart to the betrayer that crushed him. Mrs. Okonkwo held his hand and whispered, "God brought us here to save you. From today, you are our son." They adopted him legally, gave him a new name, and enrolled him in a business school. Michael began to heal. With time, he transformed from a broken mechanic to a confident, polished entrepreneur. But on the day of the church wedding, something strange happened. As the pastor stood to pronounce them husband and wife, Precious smiled at Kelvin, her hands in his. "Do you, Kelvin, take Precious to be your lawfully wedded wife?" Suddenly, a loud bleat echoed in the hall. Gasps filled the room. Kevin looked beside him. Precious was no longer there. Standing beside him was a goat, a white goat in a wedding gown. The hall erupted in screams. Phones dropped, guests ran. The pastor stumbled backward, clutching his Bible. Kevin froze in place, his eyes wide with horror. The goat turned his head slowly, looking at him with tearful eyes that looked just like Precious. Kelvin screamed. Her mother fainted. The news of Precious' transformation into a goat on her wedding day spread like wildfire across the community. Social media, radio stations, and blogs picked up the story, twisting the detail and mocking the girl who dared betray true love. The image of a goat in a wedding dress standing helpless at the altar became a viral sensation. Precious' mom cried herself to near unconsciousness. Her husband, Papa Precious, was too ashamed to step out of the house. They kept Precious the goat in a locked room, hoping a miracle would reverse the curse, but days passed, then weeks, and nothing changed. Desperate, they returned to the spiritualist. The man draped in red and black robes sighed and shook his head slowly. The only way she can become human again is if Michael willingly forgives her willingly with his heart. If not, she will remain a goat till death. Then we must find him, Precious' mother wailed. They returned to Michael's mechanic workshop in the village, only to discover that he had packed up and left. No one knew where he had gone. Even the landlord of his tiny rented room struggled helpless. He said he needed to leave everything behind. He didn't say where he was going. The shame and guilt crushed the family. Precious' mother began to deteriorate mentally. She would stare at her goat daughter and whisper, "This is all my fault." Years passed. One day, while taking a walk through a luxury estate, he bumped into an old fragile man begging on the street. It was Precious' father. "Michael," the man muttered in shock. Michael froze. Behind the old man was Precious' mother holding the goat on a leash. Precious' mother collapsed in tears and began to beg, "Please forgive our daughter. She has suffered for years. She has suffered enough." Michael looked at the goat. He looked at him with trembling eyes. "I forgive you with all my heart, Precious," he said softly. And in that instant, the goat shimmered in a golden light and transformed back into Precious, naked, weak, but human again. Gasps filled the air as passersby stopped to witness the miracle. But Michael turned and walked away. Rachel called after him, her voice weak and cracking. "Michael, please." He didn't look back. The shame was too much. People whispered, children stared. The very villagers she once wanted to impress with her wealth now mocked her with disgust. She locked herself in her room for weeks. Then one morning, the entire compound was awoken by a scream. Precious was gone. She has taken her own life. That night, unable to face the shame, Precious swallowed a bottle of poison and ended her life. We've come to the end of this amazing story. I hope you did enjoy it. If this is your first time of stumbling to my channels, you're highly welcome. For my returning subscribers, a big thank you.